Welcome, listeners, to episode 24 of the Running Guide podcast, where I aim to provide informative content and interviews with elite athletes from around the world, like in today's episode, where I'm chatting to a Sydney fella who had some incredibly successful years as a runner over numerous distances, competing at World Cross, Com Games and Olympics, and holds the fastest Australian marathon debut time of 2:11.00, whose focus still remains on weekly training volume intensity, but on two wheels instead. Welcome to the Running Guide podcast, Jeff Hunt. How you going, mate?
Good to be here. I'm going all right.
Fantastic, mate. Are you guys getting Arctic conditions up there today like we are in Canberra?
Well, I don't know if it's like what you're getting in Canberra, but it's been pretty chilly and a little bit windy. But yeah, it's a little bit havoc. I found this time of year is that it's deceptive. The sun can be warm, but you get in the shade and the wind and the breeze, and it can be cold. But we're not as close to getting potential snow as like what you guys might. I heard there was a report that there might be snow above 500 meter elevation, which puts Canberra right in the ballpark for potentially getting snow.
Yeah, no, we did get a drop. I was just looking on Strava there before, and a few people have been taking a photo. So yeah, there was a good drop. We do sit at 565. So yeah, we're certainly in that zone there. But so you got out Saturday morning bunch ride this morning? Is that the usual?
Yep. Saturday morning bunch ride. We just did a cruisy little bit around. Did a couple of hours around the national parks. Great, good bit of hills in there. Temperature when you drop down into the park at Waterfall there, it does tend to drop a couple of degrees. It's not too bad. You're a little bit exposed at the top with the wind and stuff. But yeah, bunchy out this morning. Nothing too flash. Pretty stock standard.
What, 70, 80K, something like that?
Today, I think I did around 60 to 70. I'd normally go up to about 100. So I try to do it by time base, because if you do a lot of climbing, you tend to not do many Ks. And so I try to do around 3 to 4 hours on a Saturday. But today, because I'm recovering from a race I did actually up at Gunning last Sunday, it was I'm in a bit of a recovery week, so I didn't push it out too far this week and just take it easy.
Okay, and you destroy the cafes at the end like we used to do, or?
yeah. I saw a funny little vid on Facebook the other week that was talking about when you become a cyclist and about how much more coffee you drink, and it's like there's one before you start your ride, and you go to meet people at the start of the ride and you have a coffee, and then you have a mid-ride coffee, then you have a post-ride coffee. I'm like, well, I was doing that already. I was already drinking plenty. So you smash up the cafes. You got to be careful though on the bike. It's not as, strike a chord with a few cyclists, not as demanding in general unless you're sort of really concentrating. And so, you hit the pastries, you might find yourself getting a little bit bigger. As opposed to if you're hitting the pastries while you're running.
Yeah, for sure. I actually grew up at Avalon there on the Northern Beaches, and I was a cyclist for 10 years before I went into running. And so I know the scene. A lot of years riding around the Kringai National Park up around Kuna Bay, Bobbin Head. You guys ever head up that way, or?
Yeah, so I went up there and I raced West Head the other week, and I've been mainly up there because I've got a couple of mates who live over there. And he took me around. So after the race that we did, took me around Akuna. And it was quite nice. It's sort of right up my alley. So until we sort of had a few more little restrictions come in here with our friendly COVID sufferers. I haven't ventured back up, but I'm planning to go up there probably every couple of weeks and race. Ride around gorges and things like that. And, just get round, basically. It's that's one of the things I found with riding, is that because you can cover so much more distance while you're riding, and it doesn't kill you as much as if you were to try to cover the same distance running. You can really see around different areas, and it's much better to see it while you're on the bike rather than driving. It was a popular ride we used to do through that area, then Bobbin Head, then the old Pacific Highway up to Patonga, and then get the ferry back to Palm Beach. That used to be a really good ride. And I think I've seen a couple of people do that.
The old highway's closed. Well, I'm talking a long time ago, but I assume it still is. It was closed to traffic, so you're basically riding through all these up and down hills. through all these parks, and there's no one else on the road, so it was fantastic. Yeah,
Makes it a little bit safer to
yeah, it
occasionally have
was, it was.
few crazies getting out there that don't like people being on bikes, but it is what
Yeah.
it is.
I'll tell you what the scariest thing, the guys on motorbikes, so they, again, knew that the road was closed, and they just pushed their bikes through the big boulders they have there. And you hear them coming, and you know that they're thinking, I'm not expecting a bike to be on this corner. So you'd hear it coming and thinking, I don't know where to go on this road because this guy's going to be coming around the corner probably doing 140. So that was the only scary thing. Going up some of those climbs through Mount White, and you hear a bike coming thinking, I hope this guy's on the ball.
Yeah, because they pick the lines.
They do
as well.
They do,
And
exactly.
it's no, we get a few of them through the national park here, down here.
Yeah.
They're generally, I've only had a few bad experiences, and it hasn't been too bad. So most people are aware most of the time.
All right, mate. This is the Running Guy podcast where we better talk about running. Let's PBs. Let's start with 1,500 meters. A 3:47 up in Sydney in 2009.
Yeah, so that one, a little bit of a surprise actually, how that panned out. Obviously, if people look over my career, I'm not exactly a track specialist, especially down at 1,500.
That is fast though. I was actually comparing to some of the other guys who may have had a little bit more leg speed on the longer ones, but 3:47 was actually quite quick compared to those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, we used to always do sessions like the 10 by 400 off a minute recovery, and I always used to try to do 10 by a minute off a minute. And funnily enough, I tried for many years to do the fast speed work, to run a fast 1,500. I just could never crack it. And then just in the lead up to this one was pretty much, I think I did one, maybe two sessions in the couple of months prior to it that was less than 800 meters long each rep. And it just came together on the day. I raced hard. I actually, that day, I think I out-dipped Brett Robinson in that. That was probably the first and last time I raced him and beat him. But I threw myself in the mix. I think it was the state champs from memory. And really just what happened was because of, I think, Philo Saunders was running, training partners at the time were running, Jeremy Roth and Brad Woods.
Which track was it on?
The main track at Homebush.
Okay,
the big one. So, and I think also Yusuf Abdi was in there, and it was a state champs, and I was just racing it. I'm a racer. I'm not a very good time trialer, and just because I position myself well, Philo likes to run hard up front. He just ticked it off. 60 seconds a lap seemed to be the standard that we do most of our races, and rolled through, positioned myself well, kicked when I tried to kick, and stay in the race to try to kick into the medals. And basically just held on for grim death. My last lap, I can't remember it exactly, but I know that when I kicked hard, and I did a really good 300. And the home straight was just terrible. I was tying up severely, but managed to hold on. Like, I think if I'd held the pace I'd held to 100 to go, it was like a 3:44 or something like that. But then I just the legs flew out. But held on, and was pleasantly surprised, and then never went anywhere near that again. I don't even know if I raced another 1,500 after that.
Yeah, okay.
But pleasantly surprised and very happy to run a decent time and crash under 350.
Yeah, no, fantastic. All right, 3,000 metres, 8:01.94 in Sydney again in 2007. Yep. So a couple of years earlier than that.
Yeah, that was a good one. We set out the goal, every time we sort of stepped out to some of those races, it was about run under 8. That was the benchmark. Obviously I missed it. But when we ran that, there was a young kid in that race that some people, you might have heard of him, called Ryan Gregson. And he, I think he got me on, he ended up getting me on the line. But that just played. I think we started to find with that race was that the pace, it was definitely more suited to me than the 1,500. 60-second laps was a little bit stretched. The 64s, 63s seemed to sit a lot better with me. Now, being how long ago it was, and how my memory is, I think basically we had a pacer, one of our training partners, took us pretty steady through it, and I just remember feeling really good all throughout. The biggest thing that I found, which pretty much highlighted the type of athlete I was that I could just grind away at the pace, 63, 64-second laps, and just keep going. What I couldn't do was then up it again to like a sub 60.
Okay. Yep.
And at the end, I got out kicked by someone who went on to actually be a very good 1500, very good 3K runner. But yeah, 801.97. It was pretty good. It was a decent chunk of a PB. I really would have liked to have got that 7 at the start, but it wasn't to be. I sort of had a bit of, like I said, I raced better, and because it was set up more as a time trial, it kind of made it. Took me a little bit out of my league, and so I just kind of held on for as long as I could, and yeah, it eats a little bit that I didn't get the sub 8, but it is what it is. I'm happy. It's a pretty respectable time. 8:01.
Yep, and you did get the sub 14 for the 5, so you ran 13:57 even there in Hobart 2013.
Yeah, that was strange. That race is always a good race. Like they managed to I think it was a Graham Briggs, and Collis had always ran there and always ran quick, and so it was weird because it would just be that course would just that area would just be windy, like all day, the whole time you're down there, and then that race would start, and it'd just drop away. Now the funny part about that race is, from memory, I think it was at the end of February. And I think it was 6 or 7 weeks before I did Boston Marathon. So I wasn't even training for a 5K. I was training for a marathon. And I came out, and again, it played to my strengths again. I just hit like 67 seconds a lap. I think I just tried to just be a metronome, just run it. We found a couple of people that I was running with, and we just kept a steady pace. And James Niparis, who was my training partner at the time, was running with me, and we just basically just kept ticking them off. I was on the limit because I hadn't done the fast work. I'd done a lot of stuff that was more targeted at trying to run your 305, 306 per K pace, not 247s or whatever. But yeah, it kind of, just the strength that I had in my legs from doing all the marathon training had managed to get me to propel myself along at a steady pace. And I must admit, I did go for a kick in the last lap. I may have picked up maybe a 1/10 of a second on the average. And yeah, got done by Nipper. I have a tendency to get done by the younger guys. And he got me, I think, down the home straight from memory. He just came launching past me. So Nipper had a faster PB, and a little bit dark on the day, but it was good. And it just went, on that day, I went, you know what? Of marathon training, I'll just run a 5K PB. I reckon I'm in good nick for this marathon coming up. So yeah, so looked at the positive of it. I got my 13. I got I'm a 13-minute runner.
That's
it. If you're a Kenyan, you're a 13-minute runner.
Exactly.
See? It's just a 13.
Yeah.
And so pretty happy. And I definitely never went anywhere near that again.
Yeah, it's certainly not uncommon, and I'll go into this category as well, that a lot of guys will actually run PBs for 5 and 10 in their marathon time, you know what I mean? So, and like you said, I think it's just that strength you get from the marathon training, and even though you're not doing, your standard, short intervals, it goes to show that strength goes a long way in those 5s and 10s because, yeah, like I said, a lot of guys do PB for those short distances, such as yourself, during a marathon program.
Yeah, it's funny. You got to try it. Like, and that's the thing. There's so much experimentation. Doesn't matter what the books say. You got to find that happens with the athlete. And for me, I was doing lots of speed work to try and for when I was training for steeplechase to try and get faster at steeple at 15 and 5 and 3K steeple. And we just found I was getting slower and we couldn't figure it out. So then we just flipped it and then started doing longer, harder stuff like more targeted to that distance work, and then all of a sudden I'm getting faster at the shorter stuff, and yeah, it messes with your brain a little bit. But then when you step back, you actually see, okay, it's the strength, and and that's what worked for me. Doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah, I think maybe some guys just have a lot of good speed in their legs and they're able to always be able to pull that out of the bag, even though they're not doing the intervals. And then when you actually have all that strength and, that big aerobic engine from the longer stuff, you put the two together. And I think that's why you can generally still run quick on the short ones, whereas other guys, to have speed, they've always got to be working at it and training on it.
Yeah, and then there's a difference in terms of there's speed where you can go fast, and then there's that explosive speed where you've got the guys that can just kick there's no kick, like they're running for their life, and whereas for me when I could progressively get quicker, so I do the old, not to his level, but I do the old Eldaroo trick. You get progressively quicker. So over 3 laps to go, it's like I think I tried to do it to Nipper one time in a 5K, and that was the first inkling. That was when the first one I think he beat me is I think I went 66, 64, 64, 62, and then I slowed down to a 63. But I tried to hit nice fast laps, and then he went 60 on the last lap. Yeah. So, but he went at 200 and just dropped me, and I was just like, okay, I can't do anything. So some people had that quick turn of pace, whereas I just try to run. I try to run that out of your legs.
yeah, for sure. All right, 10,000 meters, Zatopek 2009, 28:19:39.
Yeah, that was a good race. That was really good. I was really happy with that. Ironically, at that point in time, my 5K PB was still 14:04, and that was from just a ES Marks, just an interclub meet. When I ran that one, I just settled in. I just raced. I didn't really go, I didn't go, I want to run 28:20, or 28. I wanted to just run fast, right? And because it was the trial and it was the nationals, and it's Zatopek. I definitely set myself. I wanted to run sub 29. I had to run sub 29. But yeah, I took off, and I think I was midfield early on. I didn't really. I was a really lazy person getting off the line. Again, no explosive speed. I can't get quick off the mark, so I'd sort of just settle in. And all I did was I just sort of, I keep my eye up the line, and I just steadily move up. And I ended up. By halfway, the group had shrunk down a fair chunk. I couldn't tell you how many people were in, but I went through in 14:16. And I was watching the K splits, and I was just like, wow, okay, this is going all right. And then it kept going along, and I think we got to, I knew I was on for something special by about 7K because I was feeling really good. And we're probably down to about maybe five of us, I think, maybe 6. Can't be sure. But I do distinctly remember hitting 9K and seeing 25:30. And I remember going, and I knew been going pretty quick. And I went, oh, I've only got to run. Even if I blow up and run a 3-minute K here, I'm still running 28:30.
Yeah.
And just, I was just like, I couldn't believe it. And we round the home straight, and we'd been kind of steadily running, like consistent laps, the 68-second laps. And
how many guys were with you with the K to go? Like
with the K to go, there was 5 of us.
Yeah,
so
okay.
the 5 of us were Collis Birmingham, Ben St. Lawrence, Marty Dent, I think Michael Shelley. I think Michael Shelley was there. Yeah, because Michael Shelley was doing most of the work, I think, from memory. And myself. And we hit 900 to go, maybe 850 to go, and then Collis took off. He launched. Benny went with him. Then 3 marathon boys. The guys getting ready for it. Then tried to go as well. And Michael got the jump. I remember I pulled away a bit from Marty, and I was sort of stuck in that 4th place. And I just remember I'm swinging my arms, I'm pumping my legs, I'm putting it all out there, trying to run a hard 2 last laps. Anyway, I crossed the finish line, and I've come in 4th place. I knew I was about 28:20. Fourth across the line, I think. Yeah. And, obviously tired and, but happy. I even went and looked back at the result, the video after, because I could see it. And I found out that all that arm swinging, all that leg pumping, literally pulled me. I think I went from a 68-second lap to a 67-second lap. Like, I put so much more effort in and barely went any faster. So I'd been on the limit. But yeah, it was just, I couldn't believe it. And the funniest part about that race was, for a couple of years prior, I'd been talking to Ken Green, who was my coach at the time, and he wanted me to do a marathon. I said, I'll do a half marathon when, it was like working backwards. I'll do a marathon once I've done a half marathon in, I think I said 63. I think that was what it was. But I don't want to do a half marathon until I've done a 10K in 28, right? So we kept putting it off, mainly me. And then I just went, after I got cornered by him and Ken and Mona we had a chat, not necessarily cornered, like an intervention kind of deal, but they kind of talked to me about, you should do, like early 2009, you should do a marathon, prepare a year out. And so what happened was, I said, okay, yep, I've missed it so many times. Like I just kept running 29 mid for 10K. Sure, let's do it. Let's do the training. I came out and did, which you'll bring up soon, and ran my first half marathon, and ran 62:44. And then, so I was like, oh, okay, that was what I'd said I'd do a marathon if I run that. And then I've come out now, and then I've done a 10K and ran 28, so I kind of got them in backwards order, but hey, I got there. So it was quite funny to say, maybe if I'd started training for the marathon earlier, maybe I would have ran these times earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, hindsight is definitely 2020.
Sure. Did Collis get the chocolates that night?
He did. 28:05.
Okay.
Benny wasn't far behind him. So yeah. And then they're both national record holders with a 10. So and they've both had pretty good careers.
Definitely, for sure. Mate, before we hit the road, I'll cover your steeplechase. 2,000 metres, 5:59.56, so nice sub 60 in Sydney in 2005.
Yeah, I couldn't. That must have been just an interclub race. Yeah, it was. I'd always chased it, trying to get that sub 6. Yep. It's an interesting one. You've got to be a good 1,500 runner, but strong enough to hurdle. To be honest, I don't even know. I couldn't even remember that race actually. But yeah, like you said, a sub-6, it's good.
Yeah.
I would have liked, there was a couple of people that I benchmarked myself off. One of them was, you may or may not have heard of, is Richard Jeremiah. He and Will Devjak, and I think they ran in the 540s. But yeah, I couldn't quite get that 2K. And then by the time I started to really focus properly, it was more about 3K than anything.
Yep. And you ran your PB there, 8:41.37 in Sydney in 08.
Yeah.
So Marty Dent would have been running around those days, and
Marty was running. Yeah, Marty was running. I'm trying to think.
Milosevic, was he running?
No, Brad wasn't around at that point. Yeah, so no, I have plenty of races with Marty over the years.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that 8:41, I can't. Do you have the details of what race that actually was? It must have been the trial. I wonder if it was a trial for the Olympics. It might have been. And there might have even been I came in good form, but I think I just sort of had hit my limit with steeple because I wasn't really good at hurdling when I was fatigued. And I think that day, right, again, as like you talk about the 2K steeple, right? I went through in the mid 540s through 2K, but I couldn't run that for a 2K. So go figure that one out. But I think that was about the tail end. I think after that race, I'd kind of went, I haven't done enough work for a steeplechase. I didn't do a lot of hurdle work. I was literally just training as a distance runner. So it was kind of like, unless you're going to do the hurdling specific type stuff, which I've seen, there's the US guy, Evan Yeager or Evan Jager, depending on however you want to say it. He's done a lot of hurdle specific stuff to get down to be a low 8-minute runner. And I guess I was more focused on, just running, and I think I reached my upper limit in terms of the steeple. It was always steeplechases last lap when you're leaving everything on the track and you've got to try and hurdle. It's just so hard to do, and I think I was finding that when you are fatigued and your form goes a little bit bad, you lose valuable seconds in that last lap, and that was what was bringing me undone. And I never got that sub 8:40, but 8's nothing to be sniffed at. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of guys, I can't talk ill of it. There's a lot of guys in the last couple of years that I'm sure they'd be very happy to run 840, sub 850. It's not easy to do. I can only imagine what it takes to run what Yusuf did down at 8 and what Sean Crichton did at 816.
It's amazing. Sean Crichton's record still holds. He set back in 93. So yeah. I was actually watching the Monaco Diamond League the other night, and I was just thinking of the fatigue of those guys on that last water jump, and the guy who ended up winning it, he just hurled it every time, and he didn't put his foot on that water jump. Is that something you sort of make a decision as you're coming into it, or is it something that you
got to. So again, it's a lot of things. You got to do a lot of work to be able to do that. I didn't find, that there was any more. It was any more efficient, really, because it required a lot of spring. Yeah. So some people are a lot more poppy. I'll tell you that when they run. And when you do get tired, you kind of land further and further in the water, and just placing your foot on the top of that barrier, and it's like not even a big push off the top of it. It's a little flick. It's a little flick just to carry your momentum. It's pretty easy to do, and it doesn't. When I think Chirono, when he set the world record, he was a hurdler over the water jump. I I just if you're long and gangly,
Mm,
you can probably do it.
mm,
But yeah, I just found I think I tried it once or twice, and not in a race, sort of like or not in a major race, just like an interclub, and it just didn't. You had to be. I could see myself with the pace that I was running over 2K, possibly doing it, but
mm,
yeah, you got to carry a lot of pace.
mm.
There's a reason why. If I could have that much spring, I'll be doing long jump.
Yeah. Is it weird with your foot hitting on an angle on the ramp as you come down?
It is a little bit. So
Mm,
generally, mine when I used to land, my foot half of it would be up on the flat, and the heel would sort of hit. But what happens is because you sort of as you're coming down, you've got so much momentum that your foot's coming underneath you, and so you don't sort of break. Does that make sense? So
yeah,
you're not
yeah.
your
Okay.
foot's not hitting with it out in front of you. It's
Yeah.
sort of hitting more directly underneath you, which is why that's actually the reason why you sometimes see people fall because their foot when it hits the ground is too far behind them, and so they've got nothing to
Yeah, gotcha.
stop themselves. So you need a little bit. You kind of need it to strike directly under you, and then yeah, you don't really notice it too much. Unless you got sort of like a dodgy ankle or something like,
Mm,
or you don't land
yeah,
with your foot correct, like straight, that's sort of angled. That's when you'll notice it.
yeah. Did you ever have any ugly mess ups over it in your career?
Yeah,
Uh,
I did one of the trials. I can't remember which one it was, or trial or nationals. I can't remember, but it was at Homebush and it was raining for the steeple. And I remember we just started. We're on the so you start halfway down the straight, got around to the 1500 start, which is about 150 meters in, and as I planted my foot to go over, it put it in the puddle that was there, and I just aquaplaned. And as I sort of pushed up, I didn't get enough height. My trail leg, which is my left leg, just smashed into the barrier. And I was in front of the field. And what happened was I went from lane one, I just slid out to lane three across the front of the field and just belted my knee, got up, chased, got back on, and then ran, kept up, I think, to about 2K, and then started to drop off. But what I didn't know was as I'm running, um, and each time I went over the water jump, because that was my landing leg. So it was my push off, my lead leg when I hurdled was my right. But then when I went the water jump, it was my right foot pushed off the top of the barrier and I landed on my left. Was that my knee was getting bigger and bigger.
mm,
And as I completed, and when I finished the race, it was easily twice the size of my other knee. And then, like most things, like you probably understand from marathon, when you finish your marathon, and you stop, everything just seizes up.
mm.
That's what my knee did. And I had a straight leg for about a week. I could barely bend it at all. And of course, being the silly person I am, I never got looked at. But it took me about it started to come down, but it took me. I couldn't crouch down for 6 months because of whatever I did to the end of my quadricep on my knee. And then it eventually came good. But yeah, so that was the one. I mean, I fell a couple of times at the water jump, but that was the one big one that kind of made me look back and go, God, how did I not have someone step on me?
Mm.
How did I not do something worse? And how did I do it? So yeah, so it was, that was my big spill.
Yeah, I'm interested in something. Sorry, listeners, you guys probably want me to move on from this, but I'm just thinking when you go over that last like the hurdle before the water jump, and you said you got your leading and your trailing leg. Have you ever do you guys count your steps? Like, do you ever have to? You must have to half step before you get to it, so you're
Yep.
actually jumping off the right leg. Is that generally what happens? And some laps you actually because for whatever reason running quicker, you're actually perfect timing. Is that something you have to just keep calculating every time you're coming into the jump?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you'd know most of the time from your running when even when you're trying to step up a gutter, right? You're running along and your mind just goes chop, 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 chop to get you on the right foot.
Yeah.
So I don't, there was a point in time where we thought about potentially we try to count or do stride length, kind of like a 400 hurdler.
Yeah.
But we realized it wasn't going to work in the long term. What ended up happening was it was about sighting further out, being confident in your stride. But essentially, you just rely on your instinct in terms of chopping down until you get it, until your mind actually tells you that you're going to hit the right leg.
Yeah.
You try not to take off on the wrong one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And there'd be times when there's five guys coming in shoulder to shoulder, pushing and shoving, and that's another issue, isn't it?
Yeah. Like mentally, you're constantly thinking about all the different variables and stuff like that. But it's a tricky one. But the mind just figures it out somehow.
Yeah.
But it does look funny when you wait. And remember how I said about the last lap, and you're just trying to go for it, and you're wasting seconds if you don't get it right. And that's what you do. It's kind of like inefficient. You slow down because you can't keep maintaining your speed. So it breaks it up, and if you're not used to it, it kind of smashes you a bit.
All right, mate. 5K. Now, obviously, the World Athletics profile always only brings up the Noosa Bolt. So you may have run quicker than this, but it's the only one that must be registered to go onto their app. But 14:53 in 2014. Did you head up there often, or?
Nah. I think that might have been my only one actually up there.
Yeah.
So throughout my career, I suffered in humidity and hot weather. I just if you look at, I mean, you only got to look at my major championships were just shocking. And I think heat had a large part to play, which funnily enough, after I think it was would have been post 2014 when I'm 32 by that point, and finally my body starts to sweat in the hot weather properly and cool itself down, and I actually started to go all right in hot weather. Going to Noosa, we used to do a couple of training camps, 10 days in the middle of winter up there, which was interesting because you get very humid, and you think your body starts to sort of adapt a little bit and know how to do it. But yeah, always wanted to do the Noosa Bolt. It was like one of those 5K road races, that was illustrious, I'll say.
Yeah, it usually gets good depth and a good crowd with all the triathletes there for the weekend. Yeah.
And it's a good weekend.
Yeah.
And so you wanted to go and be a part of that, but we only went up the once, and I just ran shockingly. I didn't really like the course that much, and I don't know why we didn't really go back. I guess we focused on some different things and didn't see much of an importance. It was a good thing to go up. It would have been nice to go back, but I just that 5K road PB. I have ran faster in splits. My half marathon when I raced Marty, 2011. I think he said his Garmin split for the last 5K of that one, which I won in 63:18, was 14:20. So, so I ran quicker.
Sure.
But the official one, I could find one on if it's on Strava, it's official, right? So I could find one on Strava. I'm done.
That's it. All right, 10K, 29:38, Springvale, 2009.
Oh, that'd be Sandown, I think.
Okay.
That must be, yeah. So I went down. Again, that's another one where I split faster in my half marathon PB, but that was a good race. Well, I went raced down against the Victorian guys. It was a little bit blustery day. Had to try and stay ahead of Mona, because he runs phenomenally forever
Yeah.
as well. But that was a good race. Got in there, mixed it up a bit with the likes of Mark Tucker, and that was a big. I think my previous PB to that was 30:57, and that came from the Sydney Bridge Run, which I debated at the time whether or not it actually was 10K. A lot of it was downhill, so that kind of didn't count as well. But yeah, the race is a couple of laps at the Sandown Racecourse. It's a good course down there. I think the front straight, we had a headwind coming up, and being a little guy, it made it difficult for me. Mark Tucker had broken away. I was a little bit exposed, but we had a good little pack. Worked pretty hard together. I should have probably gone faster. Like I went down to Burnie, and I didn't run that fast down there either. I think it was I was a little bit inconsistent with some of my race results and certain distances. I don't know whether it was timing that it didn't work well, but that one. From recollection, came in the lead up to Gold Coast, so it was a good preparation race. So it meant that I was on the right track, and looking at my targets, it meant I took away. Yes, I'm doing the right training, and I'm looking at least like I can run half decent in, well, what I would deem half decent in a half marathon.
Yeah, and you're right. That was my 09. So leading into your PB up there on the Goldie for the half marathon, running 62:44.
Yeah, it was not a bad way to start my half marathon.
It's pretty quick, yeah.
Yeah. I was surprised. I don't know. There was a photo going around of me. They've got me at the finish line because I didn't wear a watch, so I had no idea what I was running. I was just trying to keep up, and I came around the last bend because the finish is different now to what it was then, and I saw the clock, and my face was just like, oh my God, really? No wonder I feel like I do. That was a funny race. I almost didn't go up. On the Wednesday, so my wife, Heidi, she runs, and it's funny. That's how we met. And we may just need to be careful. My Bluetooth just told me battery low, so we may end up switching soon.
Okay.
So we met running, and but I used to do some runs, some of my call it my easier runs, or my general runs. And on the Wednesday, I'd been feeling a little bit flat, and on the Wednesday I ran with her, and we were doing our hour run around Centennial Park, and she was dropping me and just waiting for me, and I was struggling. I struggled to run 14. I think it was 14K or 13K in the hour. I was just like struggling, and this normally comes easy. Anyway, I wake up the following morning sick as a dog. Could not, just went, oh my God, I'm in trouble. Got the cold and flu tablets, and was just, pumping them into me as much as I could. Sleeping as much as I could because I was off work. And just kept taking them, and we were seriously talking, and it got to Friday was when we were meant to fly up, and when we woke up Friday morning, I was still rough, and I had a chat with Heidi, and we were like, should I even fly out? Do I even bother? And in the, we got to the end of the day, I was like, nah, okay, it's booked. Let's just fly out. Worst case, it doesn't stay away, and I just don't run, because she was going up to do the half marathon as well, and she was fine. We fly up there on the Friday, get in, we check in, and I just ate dinner, went to bed. I think I slept something like 15 hours. I woke up the following day at about 11:30 a.m., but I woke up and I was like, I can breathe. It was interesting. I don't feel so bad. And then we went out for my pre-race 5K jog with her, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm not feeling too bad now. I think it's gone. So I'll run out tomorrow. and I lined up. You know, we know what the outcome was of the race, so it clearly got it out of my system. But the race itself was just great. Like just striding out, everything just felt so good. So I'll call it majestic. And we were running along. I remember at one point chilling at the back with Dixon Marwa, who won the race. You know, and then just slowly the field just got ratcheted down, and I had no idea what pace we were running. I remember we hit the turnaround and I got dropped by Marty, Michael Shelley, and Dixon, and I got dropped off, and I wasn't that far back, and this was my first thing where I realized in my head I'm like, come on, Serge, get back on, come on legs. It took me a K. It took me a K to get the message to my legs to actually pick it up, and I got back on, at about 13K, and I think I surprised them a little. But then then we're churning along, and we hit 18K, and then they just upped it, and that was it. I couldn't go again. But yeah, rolled through to the finish, and I don't think I really dropped much. Again, I didn't have the pace, but I like watching on my watch or anything like that. But yeah, it ended up finishing. I will say, however, that when I finished, I was greeted by a drug tester, and also who got to witness me dry retching because I had nothing in my stomach and I was completely gone, and I was just struggling. But yeah, I just could not believe that I'd ran that fast on my first one, and when you look on the world stage, it's probably not that fast, but I put up a respectable time, and I was just elated, A, that I'd got on the plane, B, that the sickness had gone, and just how it had turned out. I was happy as Larry.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I won't talk about it for long, but yeah, I did a really fast 10K, the exact same conditions, really sick, thought I won't even do it, got up in the morning, thought maybe I'll just drive down and see there's people there I know, thought maybe I'll just go for a jog, thought I don't feel too bad, ran a PB, and there's things in running that don't always make sense, and you take it when it comes along, and the opposite happens when you feel fantastic, you get out there and the legs have got nothing, so yeah, sometimes these things happen, and whether it was forced rest or whatever it might be, because you're not well, and when you do turn up, as long as you get it out of your system and you got fresh legs, you're ready to go. And I think it's mentally too. You think you feel like you're getting something for free, and I think because you're not meant to be actually feeling that good, and I think that sort of plays with you, and you thought, oh well, I feel I'm getting something for nothing here, so I might as well make most of it. So yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. Mate, your marathon.
Doesn't always work like that.
Oh, no, it doesn't always. That's why you take it when it comes along. But that's the problem is next time you're sick and you sort of think, oh, well, remember that time when I ran that PB? Mate? So it always sucks you in.
It puts you in a good headspace.
Yeah.
So it gives you that positive, that optimism that it might actually be okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Certainly listeners don't, if you've got a virus and you've got a chest infection, don't race you.
Yes. Yeah. I think one of the things that I read sometime was above the neck, not so bad, below the neck. Yeah. Just stay in bed.
Yeah. That one's been around for a while. I think that's a good one too. All right. Your marathon, mate. This is insane. Over in Beppu, Japan, February 2010, debut marathon, 2:11 even, which is, today is still the fastest debut marathon by an Aussie. So that's awesome. I mean, there's so much to take out of that, but yeah, let's hear your side, mate.
Yeah. So I guess you mentioned it's been now, I think it has done, or actually next year I think it hits 10 years. Yeah. So it's lasted for 10 years, and I was just hoping, against everything that it, as a debut one, it'd last 10 years, and after that I'm fine with it going. Yeah. Interesting fact before I talk about that race is that my first half marathon remains my fastest, and my first marathon remains my fastest. Unfortunately, I couldn't replicate it. Stars, moons aligned perfectly for that day. Maybe I overcooked it in subsequent training and stuff like that. Don't know. But yeah, that was. We went over there. with the goal of running under 2:14, pretty much.
Yep.
Because I think that was the qualifying time for Com Games at the time, from memory, I think it was. And everything had gone well leading up to it. No complaints. I got over there, and funny little thing, I was there with Brett Cartwright and Marty Dent, and I remember talking to them before the race. They take you on the course tour because they want to. The Japanese are meticulous, and they like to make sure you know everything about what you're going to do. And I remember talking to Marty and Brett Cartwright, and this just shows the naivety of me, was which probably helped in the race, is I mentioned about cool downs. Now, everyone that's probably listening has probably done a marathon and know that you don't cool down, aside from
just fall down.
Blow on you. Yeah. So I'm just it's just something I'm used to, right? And I asked them about it, and they said, if you can walk to the bus, that's your cool down. And I literally turned to them and said, oh my God, what am I getting myself into? And but yeah, so we line up on the race day, and it's pretty mint conditions. And we had paces. We've been told that the pacer was, like I said, we were going over there with the goal of running under 2:14, and the pacers were told they were going to do, I think it was 3:08s at the time, and I think it worked out to about a 2:12. And we went, you know what? There's no other group. Let's just go with that group. Given the fact that if you see a lot of Japanese racers, they go out at 3-minute Ks and they hold on, which is really hard when you got to pick as a elite or sub-elite marathon runner. You look at a race and you go, oh great, they've got heaps of people that can run 2:14, 2:15. The problem is those guys all went out at 2:08 pace, right? So it's not steady. So they're blowing up and running that. And whereas back when I did it, a lot of the guys just went out at that pace. And a couple of paces, 2 Japanese guys and a Kenyan. I remember them just ticking it off. 3:08, 3:08, 3:08, 3:08. So I did something that I've never done before, and that was wear a watch in a race, because I hadn't done that, and also not go with the leaders. So that was 2 things I'd never done before. But all I did was just watch the back of the pacers in front. It was just a different way of doing things. So I slipped into, it's that time trial mode. And all I remember, and why I think that race was so good, was for close to 80 minutes of that race, I was on autopilot. I just wasn't. All I was doing was just stay with this group and 5K, drink, and repeat every 5K. Just keep doing it. And I remember, like I said, they're just steady through the splits. And I hit. We were down to the Kenyan pacer, and we hit 25K. And I was itching. I was just itching. I'd been feeling good. It felt like I was floating. I'd been dropping my arms. I'd been, getting up on my toes. I'd just been striding out. I was just moving so well. I knew I had more.
Can you remember what the halfway split was?
65, 57. I think it was. Yeah, 65-57 was a halfway split.
Is Marty still with you at that stage?
Yep. Marty was still there. And I remember we hit that 25K mark, and then I'm watching, and this is where I started to watch the clock, because I'm like, we're going pretty quick here. I do remember over the next 2K giving the Kenyan pacemaker, because I'd moved more towards, I was basically behind him. I remember giving him 2 shoves in the back and saying, come on, right? And then at 27K, we went up a little rise, and I just blasted past him. And I just went, nah, I'm done. And I took off. when I took off, I remember, I think I went through, 30K. So went through 30K, and I've been splitting my watch. Um, and now that I was charging along, because I knew that the leaders were a little bit up the road. And it turns out at 30K, they were a minute and 3 up the road, I think. And I just remember ripping through the streets, and I looked down as I went through 33K, and I'd seen that I'd just run Garmin certified, of course. So we'll call that out. Was but the oh, actually, no, it wasn't. No, because it was just the time. I remember looking at the markings on the road. So it was the 33K marker, and I looked down at my watch, and I was 8:54. So I was running sub 3Ks, 3-minute Ks, and I just went to myself, oh, slow up, slow up, slow up. And, because I'm thinking, this is just silly. And, but I hit 35K, and that 5K split was a 15:06. And it was super quick. But I just set myself a target.
So you're on your own here. You're not running with anyone.
No, I'm on my own, and I'm just ripping through the guys that are falling off the lead pack, and just catching the leaders. Now, what I'd done was mentally told myself, catch them and have a break. Hindsight tells me I should have just gone straight past, but I told myself, catch them, give yourself a break. And what happened was, at about 38.5K, it was when I caught the leaders. I know they gave me a few funny looks, as if to say, where did you come from? And I think I maybe had 1.5K where it was okay, sort of I recovered. And then the Kenyan dudes decided to make a push for home, and I just went with it. I had no reason not to. I was now racing, not time trialing, not trying to run a time. So I just went with it. I just remember didn't exactly pick up the pace a lot. We kept surging, and then we started to spread out. And when we came in to the finish, I was giving it everything I could, and the two leaders, first and second, was not very far in front of me, and I think I went back, and I think my last 400 meters of that race was nearly as fast as my 10K. So we're talking a 67, 68 second last 400. Marathon kicking into the finish, but literally 2:10:50 won it. 2:10:55 was second. I was third in 2:11. Fourth and fifth were 2:11:04, 2:11:05. There was just so many guys in the finishing straight. I'd done everything I possibly could. I'd kicked as hard as I could. The only hindsight, like I said, I should have possibly gone past, but who knows what would have happened, I remember finishing, and it was just like I just got this rush of tingling sensation through my body. And then it was like a cold flash, and then I was just like, I'll get me sick. And I was sick on camera because apparently one of my James, I think somebody was watching it on the little keyhole TV that they have, and they said they saw me vomit on TV, which was a sign that and it turned me off. I didn't have Gatorade for a good little bit of time after that. But yeah, and then I was done, and I remember Marty when he came in. I think he ran 2:12, 2:13, somewhere around there. I remember him telling me he expected to see me at about 35K sitting on the side of the road because I think I must have gone away, picked it up so quick.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know how I did that. I know I was fit, but it's just everything lined up. I still was in disbelief that I'd ran that quick. The official photo of me crossing the finish line has 2:10:59. Unfortunately, road racing rules must round up. So I get to 11.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was just like, I just couldn't believe that the run just went so well. I couldn't have asked for a better result. It was 3 minutes faster than what we were expecting. I got my qualification. I set an Australian debut record. It was the New South Wales record, and that's still standing. It had me 11th all time on the Australian list. Like, it ticked so many boxes. And for someone who, I was just trying to get the best out of myself. It was just great. It was great.
Yeah, no, I actually didn't realise you'd finished third, mate, and so close to winning. I mean, yeah, that's awesome.
10 seconds ahead of me was $20,000 more.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. But I mean, I don't think when you lined up, you were thinking about taking any money home, were you?
No. Like I said,
Yeah.
it was just it was finished, and B, it was finished inside 14.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I was just having a look here. Yeah, Marty finished 11th in 2:13:27.
There you go.
Yeah, no,
There
that's
you
great.
go.
Mate, you sort of didn't get into running till you left school. You were sort of playing around with cricket and soccer before that. So what made you actually get into running in the first place?
Um, uh, so in school, you got your mandatory cross country and athletics that you got to do, and I always did it. But what I found was when I hit high school was I was starting to go all right at cross country, and I made it. I won't go over everything that I did, but basically when I was 17, I qualified in the under 18s team to go to national cross, schools cross, which was up in Darwin. There's a few guys. Nick Bromley was one of them. There's a couple of other guys: Joel Fitzgerald, Brendan Cato, Fraser Hutton, and Luke Taylor as well. And I went up there, and I hadn't done any specific running training, and I might have gone out for a couple of runs, maybe in the lead up to it. But essentially, I was in soccer season, and at that age, we had a guy that used to coach the local. They called it Premier League teams, but like the rep sides and stuff like that.
Yep.
And he was coaching us, and so he was doing a bit of fitness work with us and stuff like that. But I went to Darwin, and I think I finished 15th from memory in under 18s with no specific running training. And it was at that point that I went, I think I'm going to be a good runner. I don't think I'm going to be, a next soccer superstar or next cricket superstar. And so I made the decision to drop cricket for the summer and try out athletics. And, well, as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah, for sure. Did you sort of have international competition sort of as a goal in those early days when you started running? Like, how sort of high were you dreaming?
I think I did. I mean, ultimately, I've only ever wanted to really get the best out of myself, run as fast as I could run. I did, because of the time that I sort of came along, Sydney rocked around, and I think there was part of that where I said I'd like to run in that. The thing was, I didn't know how to get there, right? If you know what I mean. So I knew that's what I would like to do. I would like to be an international athlete, or participate. I probably at the time, if I think back to being a teenager, I probably thought I'd like to win a gold medal at the Olympics. As most people do. But I'd only just started training, and I was with the local club coaches, and so I did set. I call it. I dreamed big, right? And when we, I'm going through some of this, like when we talk about performance management at work and stuff like that, and you're setting your goals, and you've got to have your objectives on the way. I had the goal, What I didn't have was the milestones to tick off and what I needed to do. So I sort of, if I look back over my career, I started quite well with the club coach, and Warren Kelly was my first coach, and he was coaching quite well. And then I just had, I think through being lucky that I had, I at least have a little bit of talent, that I was then at an academy training session, so Southwest Sydney Academy. We're up at Narrabeen, and then my new coach came to talk to us because he was with the New South Wales Institute of Sport, I think at the time. And then we kind of hit it off, and then he wanted to coach me, and then we just sort of built on from there. And then I kind of got in the right circles with the right knowledge, and then basically it took off from there. If I hadn't been, kind of a bit of a right place, right time, that actually helped me hit my dreams, I'll call, rather than goals.
Because you like 2001, you've taken out the Australian Junior steeplechase for the 3,000 metres, 9:18:01 up in Brisbane. So you're a steeple boy. Were you thinking of further down the line? When you talk about having dreams of competing internationally and that, you're always thinking the longer track events, or were you ever thinking of trying to get an Aussie singlet for the steeple, or?
It was steeplechase that I wanted to, that I actually thought would be my event. It was strange because I think when I look back, it was probably more because of the dynamics of it. It was different. It wasn't just running. It wasn't just. I am still someone who needs stimulation, but I can do a lot more of the repetitive stuff. And like I've got an indoor trainer now, so like for cycling, so I can sit there and stare at a screen, right? Yep. But when I was in my youth, I'll call it, which I think I can say now because it's 18 years ago, is that different? Steeplechase was hurdling, it was water, it was running, it was a combination. It was a combination of things and sort of a mixed bag of those variables. I thought I could be really good at steeplechase. I think there's a large amount of naivety in me in terms of not thinking that I'd have to do too much. Probably a little bit of arrogance about myself as well, thinking that I was all that. And I think that was where I originally wanted to excel, was probably in the steeplechase. And it's just because being so new, like my parents and family, I didn't grow up around it, so I didn't know history of it. So I didn't know about the mile. I didn't know how special things like the marathon were. I will caveat that say I never wanted to do a marathon. I never desired to do a marathon. I never desired to leave the track. I thought the track was a be all and end all. I thought maybe be a good 5 and 10K runner, but I thought that was it. That was as far as I was going. Little did I know.
2002, you finished 5th at the state titles in Sydney for the 5,000 metres. So you ran 14:34:10. So I'm just. So 2002, you're only 20 years old still, aren't you?
Yeah, I would have been. 2002. It was the 2002 one. Yeah. At that race, I probably would have been still 19, actually. And actually, before we move on to that one, I should mention the steeplechase that I won the year before. That was funny. At juniors, I remember hitting the bell lap, and I was getting the bell, and I knew it was the national title. Yeah. And I remember thinking, and this was like the little kid inside just going, "Oh my God, I'm leading a national race." I couldn't believe it, and it was like that. I think that's what drove me to the line. We just couldn't, that unbelievable bit. But yeah, 2002. Yeah, I think I was probably 19 at the time. So yeah, I was about my birthday's in July, so like 19 and a half. So, but yeah, opens race at New South Wales titles. Yeah, and that was a big PB. That was a 63 second PB in that race. Yeah, there's a few blasts from the past in there too. Jim Gillard, Nick Cope. They were in there. They were my training partners at the time.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right, yeah. And then at that meet 2 days later, you finished first in the 3,000 metre steeplechase, running 9:18:54. So that's a good meet for you.
Yeah, it was. It showed that the training. I think that came off the back of. I think my first ever trip to Falls Creek for the National Distance Training Camp epicenter, and I think I did some stupid amount of kilometers in 9 days. Like I think over the course of 2 months, I went from doing sort of 40, 50K a week to 90, 100K a week. And then I managed to blast out, I think over 9 days or 10 days that I was at Falls Creek, around 180K or something. It was like stupid. I don't know how I didn't get injured. But the training, the change, and the group that I was training with, because they were good guys in the group. They were very fast, and I was getting, I was not near the front in the training sessions, and it just showed that the strength was getting there was because I'd previously, I'd do a good race and then I'd be wrecked the following day. And this one allowed me to back up, and I had fifth place in first time in Opens, and and a win. So yeah, could not complain. It was going in the right direction, and I made the right decisions.
Yeah. Fifth at the Nationals a couple of months later when you went 9:02:08. So you're sort of getting close to that sub-9 performance. Yeah.
That was an interesting one. That was a bit more. I think I had a bit of a kick in that one too, and it was not a fast race, and I think it was in. Did you say it was in Brisbane?
I didn't write that down, but
I
you
think
tell
I
me
might have
about
been.
it and I'll find it.
Yeah, no, I think it might have been in Brisbane. Some other. Yeah, it's funny when we're talking about 18 years ago, and there's some guys in there that it's funny, they're now all mates that I used to look at and go, wow, look at what those guys run, and here I was running against them. But yeah, I think it was more of a kicking race in that one, and it was getting 9 minutes was the barrier to get to, and we thought I was probably going to get it that weekend, but didn't. 9:02 again, nothing to be barked at. Everything's still heading in the right direction. But yeah, I think I came up. Yeah, I was just outside the medals, I think, in that race.
Yeah, it's the Nationals up in Brisbane, 14th of April, and it's got you down as finishing 6th.
Yeah. So, but no, it was good. It was good, and being able to, I've gone, from what I would say an athlete who didn't know much about the sport, didn't have much to do with it, to now, I'm mixing it up against these guys who have been, running quite fast. So, so I'm pretty happy.
Yep. The next year, mate, 2003, you've cracked the sub-9 twice, once in Adelaide, once in Sydney, with a second and a fourth, and then 2 wins in the Sydney meets. So you're sort of starting to find your rhythm in that. Yeah.
Yeah. The first sub-9, which is not written down,
right,
is I missed out on doing Zatopek in December because I was coming back from injury. So late October and November, I spent out injured. About 6 weeks, I think, or something like that, where I did no running. And I did the OCD athlete thing where I had myself a gym membership. I went and rode the bike for an hour, like a madman, an exercise bike. Then went and swam for half an hour. And I did that twice a day, pretty much every day for 6 weeks. I I then came out, did like half session. I think my first, because I'd already booked my ticket, so I just still went down to Zatopek, and I just trained on the day and just watched the meet. Then trained through until when Adelaide rolled around, and somehow popped out PB sub 9. Pleasant surprise, I should say. Yeah. So so that sort of went, okay, I'm a bit fitter, and then we started to roll through the season, and because most of the races were, and I think that's probably also what I enjoyed about the steeple, was they tended to not be paced. They were more races, and I like to race. I'm a good racer, and I think that's why I started to get some of the results that I did get, because it came down to tactics, positioning, timing of getting away and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Now moving on to 04, you've had a pretty good season there. It's the old Telstra series, also down in Zatopek there. You ran a 8:47.96 in Melbourne. And you've run a few times under 9 there. Picked up the win up there in Sydney at the state champs. So 8:47.96. You're certainly starting to move along now.
Yeah, that was the one where I started to go. I'm getting good at this distance. I'm getting good at this event, and I started to set lofty goals of trying to run 8:30. Hard enough, but not crazy. That I'm not saying I'm trying to run sub 8 minutes. And it was Melbourne Track Classic. That was when it was really, it was a good meet, and you have a good, all the best guys in Australia would come and run and race, and we just have at it. I was nice and consistent. Like I picked at state level, I was picking up medals. I was winning events. It was, everything was going well. I'd had that injury the couple of years before.
What was that injury?
It was Achilles.
Okay.
Tendonitis.
Yeah.
And so I got it plagued me for a little bit of time, coming and going, but it was okay. And and I just getting into the big meets, I thrived on crowds and people, and that's what got me running better.
Yep. Who's coaching you now? Are you in this time?
Ken Green.
Okay.
Ken Green was coaching me at that time. Ken coached me from there through till pretty much 2013, I think.
Yep.
Something like that. 2014. I can't remember exactly.
All right. 0506. You're running pretty regularly in the 840s for the 3000 steeple, and you're starting to post some good times on the longer track events. You finished second in the 5,000 metres at the Sydney Track Classic, and you ran 14:13:42 there. And down in Zatopek there, finishing 10th in 29:32. So you're sort of playing around with them all at this stage, thinking I'm going to start to venture long pretty much now, or what was the mindset happening there?
Well, I was always going well at cross country.
Yep.
I was winning a lot of the state races and being competitive nationally. Just mixing it up. Like I said, remember, I had a bit more of the dynamics and the stimulus, just doing different races. But I was never I want to focus solely on one event. The steeplechase was still the goal event. There was the distance and that we thought that would be my event, and I could qualify and represent Australia in that. But with that, you don't have that many of them around. 5Ks and 10Ks will help make me stronger for that event. The 1500s, if I do those, make me quicker for it, because it's a nice blend because of that distance that it sits at. And so, so long as I kept running PBs, everything was going well. The Zatopek one was really good. That was my first 10K. I just hit pace and just ran it. I actually sort of found a nice little groove. Just kept ticking off the laps, just kept moving up. It went better than what I thought it would have gone. I wanted to run under 30 because you don't want you have those goal times or those benchmarks. You don't want to run. You don't want to run over them. Sometimes you can't help it, and you do. But it was just my goal was I think I actually set out at 70 seconds a lap. I think I was trying to run 29:10, but I ended up running 29:32, which I was pretty happy with. I think maybe I was probably midfield. I think, but it was a good start. And it was definitely starting to highlight that maybe I was going to be better long than short. So at this point, I'm playing the dumb athlete, really. What I'm doing is just, Ken, what's my program? What am I running? What am I racing?
Yep.
And just tell me what to do, and I will do it.
What was your volume like back then? Were you following the standard, Australian, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and
Yeah, kind of. It was probably at about this point that my training had started to probably start to have hints of marathon training in, but because I didn't know what that training was, I just thought it was standard training. So I think I was doing like a 2:15 run on the Sunday, doing a 10 miler with 20 minutes hard in the middle of it on a Thursday. Yeah, doing the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday sessions. The mileage. I wonder if I probably would, only because I don't know where to pull it up. I could probably tell you. But it was, I'd say, it wouldn't be, I wasn't doing 100-mile weeks. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I was still a bit less than that. It was still a couple of years before I think I hit, the Australian distance running benchmark of you do your 100-mile weeks. So I was still relatively low, still building up, but having a few key staples that we used to do, fartlek, or monofartlek that we call it. Mona calls it just fartlek because he refuses to use his name in it. And then the quarters, 8 by quarter, 8 by 400, 200 float. Yep. It wasn't anything crazy. It was pretty standard stuff. My coach was coached by Chris Wardlaw, and trained with Mona. So a lot of what Mona used to do, and Chris used to do, or Rab used to do, is what I got to do. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Mate, 2007. Moving on, you're starting to find some pretty good flow on and off the track. You ran a 350 1500 in Sydney in Feb. 8:01 for the 3,000 and 14:04 for the 5,000 and 29:34 at Zatopek. But you also picked up the New South Wales State and the National Cross Country titles. So pretty big bag full there, mate. So things are really going really well.
Yeah, that was a good year. Yeah. It's my one and only national title. But it came at the end of a very good cross country season. Cross country was, what found me as an athlete. When I was a kid at school, we had the cross country, and I found that I went well on it. And so that's where my roots are in cross country. And so I won all the state titles. I may have even, I think that year maybe I even ventured down and did Bundoora. I can't remember if I did, but yeah, that race out at Perth, I think it was Perth, was great. It just played into my hands and played into my strengths. I just holding off, I think I caught Marty Dent in that race, and and then I managed to hold off a Benny St. Lawrence storming home in the final couple hundred meters to get my maiden and only national title.
Yeah,
But I still was a bit amazed that I'd actually pulled it off. But it was a culmination of a very good cross country season. So and then we led in to that 14:04, which was great. It was showing that I was still again progressing and heading in the right direction. And that was a PB that stood, I think, potentially until I set my current PB, I think. So, it stood for like 5.5 years. So there's a lot of consistency. I was still doing my, getting out, doing my cross country, doing all my training, and then just having exciting races.
Yeah,
that's what I think helped me a lot.
Did you have some training partners there that were sort of pushing you along, or were you sort of leading most of the sessions, or?
Around that time, you're asking a guy to investigate his memory bank, which, being distance runners.
So in Greeny's camp, who were the strong runners that you?
Well, we had, so it changed a bit. So when I first started, so Jeremy Roth and myself were in the group. Russell's Chin was there. Around this time, I think maybe we had Blair Martin was there, Nick Cope was there. I know somewhere around that time, when I started with them in 2002, I think, maybe late 2001. I had Kim Gillard, there was Dave Evans, there was quite a few guys there. As we sort of transitioned a little bit further, I think Dave Byrne might have come in at that point as well. And then as we started to get more towards 2010 to 2012, we started to see people like Nipper come along, Brad Milosevic. So it kind of cycled a bit. It's hard to keep track of who was there and when they were there. But we've always had a quality group. When we did the long stuff, it played to my strengths.
Yep.
When we did the shorter stuff, it played to theirs. But what it meant was they were dragging me along. Remember the 10x400 session? Jeremy and Nipper be at the front of that session, and I'd be hanging on for grim death. But it'd be pulling benefit out of that. And then same thing when we do threshold and longer, K reps and things like that, where they're short recoveries. We had it. I think it depended upon the session. We always had, we were always pushing ourselves and pushing each other. Yeah. I think sometimes we tended to do what everyone tends to do when they go down to Falls Creek and train with everyone else from around the country. You tend to race a little bit more in your training. So you tend to squeeze it a little bit, probably too much, but it worked well. And being young, you recover a lot quicker. It worked quite well. I wouldn't say, even if I was leading sessions, it was the ones that played into what I was doing and what my strengths were. But I was never, running off and disappearing off the front. We were always training well together.
Yeah, yeah. Did you sort of have a training philosophy along the lines of, not absolutely bury yourself in training, and so you got something to live for on race day, or? Yeah.
Ooh, well, I tended to actually train quite badly. Like I'd always rise. Like if you saw what my training was like earlier on, you'd go, how do you get the race results you get? Because I convert it a lot better. Being that when I was younger, you recover, and so I kind of didn't notice much. But then what I always concentrated on was I never wanted to feel uncomfortable when I ran. And so I always wanted to feel relaxed. So I really worked on being relaxed. And what ended up happening was as I got fitter, it meant that when we do 10, 20 or minute threshold type efforts, I could be relaxed. And so it would be a lot, I'd always make sure that if I got dropped, it didn't matter because I'm running relaxed, or if I run at the front, I'm not trying to drop everyone. And so that was probably the main thing that I learned, was that just staying relaxed from a distance runner's perspective is what's going to work for me.
Is it Obviously, are you more relaxed in the mind, or are you saying try to relax with the body, or both?
With the body, both. I guess, and it's one of the things I've tried to, I did it, not thinking about it, but I did it. I disconnected my upper body from my lower body in terms of I kept everything nice and relaxed, let the legs keep pumping away, but everything above the waist was nice and relaxed, and which then meant my mind, like I wasn't worried and that kind of stuff. But I think it's potentially part of how I think, I guess, and how I do things. I never consciously thought about it. It was only on reflection that that's kind of how I did it. And then it became, I think that's what became crucial when I did start to do the really longer stuff, that you had to be relaxed. If you were tense at all, it was just going to knock you for six.
Yeah. Mate, 2008, you ran that PB for the 3,000 metre steeple that we've spoken about. You got second at the National Cross. Who picked it along that day?
Marty, I think
Marty
it was.
Got you? Okay.
It was in Geelong. Yeah, it was in Geelong. Yeah, Marty got me. Yeah, he got me back. So, I won in 2007 over Ben and him, and then he came back in Geelong and he ran a great race there and just, put me on the ropes early. I was running well, but he just ran so much better. Good course down there, actually.
Was it more hills in Geelong?
I don't know the
okay
park. It's at South Geelong. Yeah. It's I want to say it's not I don't think it's Botanic Gardens, but it's that south park at the south end of Geelong. So it was good there. I picked up a silver medal. So
yep.
And in the end, I ended up actually with the following year, I ended up with bronze. I think in 2009. I think. I've got gold, silver, and bronze. I know. I've got the full collection.
Yeah. That's nice, mate. 2009, 8:05 for 3, 14:07 for 5,000 up in Sydney. You love Sydney. You always run well in Sydney. Must be the homeboy. Zatopek finishing fourth in 28:19, and you ran your PB up for the half up on the Goldie there with a 62:44. And you also picked up an Aussie singlet for the World Halves over in Birmingham, England, running 64:16. So let's just, you can discuss any of those or jump straight to the World Halves. It's up to you.
2009 was a good year. It was a good vintage. So that year, like we touched on a few of those, like my 10K and my half marathon, they were quite good. It was my purple patch year. It was the year that I was planning for a marathon and that was the goal. So some of the shorter distances I still ran quite well, but they weren't the focus, and so that was good. It was encouraging. So the world half was interesting. But before I talk about that, and you mentioned around, I love Sydney. The main reason I did a lot of running and racing in Sydney was I've worked full time. I've always worked like 40, 45 hours a week. Admittedly, it's an office job and it's IT, but I've worked all throughout. So I have to strategically take annual leave. And so I can't be, gallivanting all over the country. I didn't get afforded the luxury, of going and doing track seasons overseas. But that was the choices that I made. I kind of wanted to look after my career post running. So that was where I laid my focus, and so that's why so many of my races were actually in Sydney, and some of the major ones like a half marathon I'll chase it would be targeted rather than just chase any old race anywhere.
Yeah.
And so, with that leave, Birmingham was good as, as a singlet. It's actually my second singlet. I actually had back in 2004, Chiba Ekiden Relay. I got to represent there.
Okay.
So that was interesting. That was my first introduction to Japan and overseas travel and all that kind of stuff. So that was quite good back then. That was just, if you don't know, the Ekiden Relay, 6 people. I think it's 6 people. It's all split different distances, and you run the total marathon distance. It was good fun. Interesting, but good fun. But 2009, Birmingham.
Who was on the team with you that year?
In
09, at Birmingham.
09 at Birmingham.
Really?
I only had female. Oh, I feel so bad. Cassie, I think her name was.
Yeah.
I think she's Defence Force. She did a lot of her running on a treadmill.
Okay.
Funnily enough. Clint Perrott probably should have been selected and taken. I think he ran quite well. He ran a 64 minute, so low 64 minute, I think, half marathon, and he probably should have been picked. I don't know the logic behind it, but I speculate potentially with the fact that I'd had 62.44. You had Marty who had ran 62.30 or something like that. Shelley who'd ran 62.20. Kind of, well, we only, Athletics Australia, with the performances, they want to send, people that only, if there's a minute and a half difference between the two of us, I think that might have swayed it. So I should have had a partner there, but I didn't. The race was interesting. It was my first big event, and I remember going through the first 5K in 14:30 something, I think it was, and just going, oh no, this is a bit quicker. And then I was still I was at the back of a big pack. It was like 100 people, I think, were in it at the time. And then they just, then the bigwigs just upped it. And then I never, the field just strung out, and they just went so quick. But I remember a lot of guys, I remember just picking off people once I started to hit 10 mile that had gone with the pace and were just basically walking towards the end. And it was really eye-opening to see that the different levels of athlete that there is in the world. That, I'd gone out quite well. I was holding a decent pace, but just picking up T-shirts at the back, you know what I mean? And I finished. I was a little bit dejected. I only ran 64, I think 64.16 or 64.26, something like that.
Yeah, 16. Yeah.
And so I was a long way from my best, and I just thought to myself, I didn't bring my A game. Wasn't good enough. Okay, but this is not my goal. This was a byproduct. I got lucky. I happened to run quick. If I'd ran probably what we expected, we probably expected me to run, I think it was around 64 or 65. We were going to be happy with going up at Gold Coast, and I ran quicker. I think we got this unexpected ticket to go and race, and we probably underestimated where I was in my cycle. But we knew the big game was February, and so we took the positive. I got experience. I got to see what it's like to race at an international level, and we moved on. But it was good to have another Aussie singlet. It had been a number of years. and it showed that everything was still working.
Yep, for sure. You mentioned 2007 was a good year, and I mean, there's a few good years here, but let's talk about 2010 because it looks like a fantastic year, mate. There's a lot going on there.
A purple patch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you call it a purple patch for sure. If that's what it is, mate. 8:13:25 for 3,000 metre club championships in Sydney. You finished second. Well, who beat you? Can you remember?
Yeah, Jeremy Roth, training partner.
Okay, fair enough. By much? Couldn't have been a lot in it.
I can't remember actually.
Okay,
can't remember. He could kick. I couldn't.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. For sure. Then, as we mentioned, off to BP where you're in your 2:11 even. And like you said, it was New South Wales record, 11th fastest in Australian history. The fastest, as we mentioned, by Aussie on debut, and the fastest for 7 years. Now, Jack Rayner got close, didn't he, within 6 seconds?
Oh. Yeah. I was watching that closely, trust me.
2:11:06 in London, last year, wasn't it? 2019,
yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, you got close. But, actually, I might ask you before we move on, who do you reckon who's floating around at the moment is going to run 2:07?
Well, Brett with his half marathon has shown he's got the ability.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Yeah.
And he's got his 210. I think 210.55 maybe. He's a little bit quicker than me. If you look at historically and you look at half marathon to marathon, Tedeschi, who is the half marathon world record holder, couldn't convert it really.
Yep.
A quality one. So it's not to say like he ran. I mean, he still ran pretty quick, but you just don't know. It's such the half marathon. It's a hard benchmark to try to get your full marathon.
Yep.
Brett and Jack have been actually, a sort of, I follow them on Strava, and occasionally do, as everyone does, a little bit of Strava stalking. But it's interesting to see some of their training. Like they're definitely training very well, and they're training like the new ways of training for a marathon. A lot of that high speed, longer reps. Like I think Renata Canova has done a lot of like the 40K at super quick pace. Like it's just amazing, and it seems to convert very well. One of the people that I think we should look out for in the future is Stewie McSwain.
Yeah, you had to mention him for sure. I mean, I was going to say, like you mentioned before, some of them don't convert over, but yeah, it looks exciting.
But he's got to be careful to not, and this is my opinion, is that he's running so well on the track, is that he doesn't stay there for too long. Like if you look at a lot of the Africans, they're foregoing the track and going, like they're skipping straight up to the marathon. He may be the same as me, never wants to run a marathon. Who knows? But I think he has the engine. I think he has the efficiency from what I can see.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to see. I reckon if he decides to do a marathon, I'll be watching intently because I'm reasonably confident that he'd be the one to knock my debut record off. I'm pretty certain.
Yeah.
Someone's got to knock it off, but I think he'd be a good shot. So I'll be watching closely how he progresses because he's running very well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And hope like hell that we get an Olympics next year. And I think there's a Diamond League that's on this weekend in, where is it? Is it Stockholm? No. There's a race on this weekend, I believe.
Okay. I'm not sure.
And the 1500, you'll be up against Jakob Ingebrigtsen. I don't know if you've been following those boys, but he's moving pretty well too.
Yeah. It's a bit crazy, those guys. Yeah, they're training quite well. Yeah, there's a lot of young guys.
There is, mate. All right. World Cross you made that year as well over there in Poland. That was your first World Cross, wasn't it?
First World Cross.
Yeah.
First and last.
How'd you find that?
That tough.
Yeah. It's brutal, isn't it? It's just the cross country is brutal, isn't it? Especially that stuff. I mean, you look at the quality of runners we send over there, and you're struggling to finish in the top 50. It's just scary.
Yeah. Your eyeballs out for the first couple hundred meters, and then you barely slow down. You're like sprinting the whole way. It's muddy. And it's cold. It's windy. But the thing, so again, it was one of those opportunistic things. Is that I did the trial. I think it was in January, and I did well there, and I made the team. But what happened was it was I think 6 weeks. It was 6 weeks post Beppu, and I'd imagine for yourself and most of your listeners that after a marathon, you get back into your training, whatever. But 6 to 8 weeks after, you kind of hit that flat spot.
Yeah.
And
do the selectors don't look at that and think this guy's going to be coming off,
Well, they do. Yeah. They do, but they put it on you. Pretty much, right? But I didn't know it at the time. I was training great.
Yeah.
But I landed in London and just went boom, straight into that hole, and was just tired. And it's not to say I wasn't terrible, but I knew I wasn't at my best, and it's just that fatigue. It's just kind of you're back in training. You're up to about 6 weeks, and you 5-6 weeks of training, 4 weeks of training, and your body goes, so we're back into it, are we? Hang on, I just need to take some time, and your body sort of goes, hang on, give me some time, and I think that's what happened. Funnily enough, I think I finished 100th or 101st or something like that. So yes. Would you like to know why? Drug cheats.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So there's been a number of people that have over the years that have been dinged and they cancelled their results. So I made the top.
I'll give it 10 years. You might be 25th.
so it's quite funny to see that. So yeah, we've been joking about that. But yeah, it was a tough race. It was a brutal race. You got to hold your own. And it's just very, very, very different to any kind of cross country race you do here. Like I said, there's eyeballs out the whole way. There's no slowing down. It's just chaotic.
What Aussie guys were there with you?
Ooh. Collis. I think Clint Perrott was there. Duayoa was there, I think, as well. Liam Adams, I think, was as well. I think. 5. And I'm so forgetting someone. And
I should stop putting you under pressure, mate. I'll stop asking.
Yeah, mate.
All right, mate, let's move on. 3 weeks after World Cross, mate, you've gone to Perth for the Nationals, and you ran 14:08:06 in the 5,000 metres, finishing 4th. With Benny Saints first, Collis second, and Dave McNeil third.
Yeah. I think that's just I went there. I sort of went there with little expectations, because I didn't need to. I wasn't trying to qualify. I had my qualification for the Com Games. Is there just to do another nationals? Because I like racing. Racing's so much fun, and so I just went there, raced it. I needed to, just run well and just have fun, and it was good fun. I would have liked, I come at nationals, I got awful close to medals sometimes, just missing them. Better than being second all the time and being bridesmaid, I guess, maybe. know,
maybe.
the person who's just off the podium. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I had fun racing,
Yeah.
and I just like to get out there and do it. And there's still a bit that I hadn't focused on fives. It was all long stuff, but you know, I race well. I always rise to the occasion to get the best out of myself at the time that I can. And I do it again and again.
Yep. And then up to the Goldie for the half, mate. You like to heading up there every year. It was obviously very good to you.
Yeah.
Finished, you got the win there, mate. 63-18, beating home Marty Dent by 3 seconds, mate. That must have been an awesome day out for you.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty hectic. We'll run along pretty quickly there, and again, I was just slipped into race mode. And you know, whenever Marty's in a race, you always know it's going to be a solid race. So, and that was the one that I touched on before, where I think my unofficial 5K PB is there at about 14:20 or 4. I think he said he was 14:20, so I was 3 seconds. So I must have been like 14:17 or something like that. But anyway, I'll take 14:20. We were just rocking along, and you know, I was just in race mode and tested. You know, it's such a good, like, it's an early start. It's 6 a.m. start for that half. It was something I struggled to get used to, but obviously I did well on the day. But when we raced, we really took off in the last 5K and just rocking and rolling. And I think with about a K to go, I tested him out. I surged, and I could see that I could get a few meters on him, and that was all I needed. And as we came off the bridge and we turned into the, you know, what is now the bigger and better aquatic centre, I just launched and managed to run away from him, you know, do the old double one finger salute, you know, like I'm claiming the Olympics, to get, you know, one of my first Gold Coast half marathon win. And it was great. 63:18. I mean, slower than the year before, but I got the win, and it was still pretty quick. And yeah, it's just good to cross the line first in something that, like, it's a decent event, you know. Into clubs and stuff, you kind of like go, okay, yeah, it's a win, but it's not like a big event. And to win something like Gold Coast was pretty special, which then, you know, I obviously went back again a couple more times. But yeah, so that was great. And yeah, I enjoyed it.
A couple of weeks later, City Surf 41-17, finishing third.
That was good.
Yep.
That was a good one as well.
Yep. Who got the win that year?
It was between Benny Saint and Michael Shelley.
Okay.
I think. And I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who it was, but all I know was the last little bit was like, we were just running so fast that day, and I still can't believe that I did run that fast. It's funny. There's a lot of people that really, really like that event, and I can see why they like the event. The distance is a bit odd for me. 14K kind of means nothing, and it's a funny event in that lots of people refer to it as, it may be 14K, but the impact of it on your body is more like a half marathon. So we made sure that we recovered after the same. But yeah, we just went hammer and tong at that, and I remember again having a bit of those feelings coming down the hill into Bondi and being in the lead, you know, just, you know, a couple of steps ahead and just mixing it up. And because I think Michael had already ran pretty quick on the course, and again had no idea I was just of what pace we were on. I was just racing it, and yeah, there was lots of people out, and it was probably you know, one of the bigger crowds that I've had for a race. And it was, especially when you're coming through Bondi at the lead of that field, it's pretty special. And just being able to just run so quick on that course, that I actually didn't think I could run that quick on that course. So I think I chopped nearly 3 minutes off my PB that day, but everything worked out so well. And I went back a couple of times and ran okay, but that was probably like the best run that I did. A couple of years later was probably a more unexpected one when I ran about 42 and a half off less than half the training I was doing at the time then. Yeah. So that was more a surprise, but yeah, it's a good distance and a good distance event in New South Wales because you can get a lot of people in there and you can have a really big race and get a lot out of yourself.
Yeah, I'm just looking up here. Benny 41.05, got Michael 41.07. I said you 41.17, and then Marty 14 seconds behind you 41.31.
Yeah, I think it was a big gap after that.
There was a minute for Shane Vancouver's, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And then, your first Com Games, mate, over in New Delhi, running the marathon. Finished 13th, 2:25.03. Now, you said you don't love the heat, mate, so Delhi wouldn't have been a nice spot for you.
No, it wasn't. It was horrible. It was, horrible. I overcooked it going into it. I think I saw how I trained in the lead up to my 211 and thought, well, if I do a little bit, train a little bit harder, get a little bit more out of myself in the sessions. I think there's an element of that. But then also, the hot weather, the humidity, I think got to me. Probably also the fact that I travel only when I need to. Again, partly due to work, but partly due to, habitual, being on knowing where I am. AA wanted us to go to a training camp in Cairns to acclimatise. So I ended up being away from work, away from home for 4 weeks. And that probably contributed a bit to it because I was out of my normal routine where I'd get up, I'd train, I'd go to work, and then I'd train, and then I'd go to bed. So I think that made it hard. The way that I raced as well was that I thought I'll race it rather than pace it, I guess. And so that probably added to it as well. Because I think I got dropped from the lead pack at about 17K. And it was done. And I just got slower and slower and slower. It was not an exciting course. I will tell you that much. It changed so many times in the lead up to it. And then it ended up being 2.5K out one way and then back, and then 2.5K out the other way and back. It was so basically we were running on about a 5K stretch of road out and back each side with the finish in the middle. It was just boring. It was just not pleasant. It was hot. It was early as well. Again, I was not really. I mean, some of my results do debate that I'm not fast early in the morning, but it was an early morning start, and I'm not an early morning person. It was a good experience to go there. Kind of a race that I'd probably rather forget. Not as much as I'd rather forget Seoul the following year. Not Seoul, Daegu the following year. But not very pleasant.
Do you get to, obviously, the marathon's at the end of the meet, do you get to hang out a fair bit and watch a lot of it, or they keep you away from all the festivities, or how's it work?
So when we were there, we're in the village, and so they got, it's on the telly, you get special, so you know how you have Channel 7 or Channel 9 or Channel 10, Fox, whatever, doing their coverage. We get in the village, you get event channels. So if I wanted to sit there and just watch long jump all day, I could just watch long jump.
Okay.
Right. And so it's kind of good like that, right? So you could observe those. Now, when we're in Delhi, it was pretty much you don't go anywhere aside from the official events we had to go to. You don't go anywhere until after your event. Now, I'm last day, so I don't get to do anything. So I'm locked in this village, running around the village rather than going out. And, you kind of get trapped there. I don't get to see, no sightseeing or anything like that. So people got to go to Taj Mahal and stuff like that, but I couldn't do it because I couldn't do it until after my event. So you do get a bit cooped up and you get a bit of cabin feverish. So it's a little bit unfortunate, but that's the nature of it, and the fact that they like to end championships with the marathon. It's kind of what we buy into, and the illustriousness of it. So you're there to do a job, even though it's not my job, but you're there to do a job and achieve an outcome. So you just cup it on the chin and move on.
Yep. What about food intake? Like, are you going down, like, just eating out of the main diner, or the Aussie team have their own little kitchen with their own food, their own little people preparing food for you, or?
No, they got the village food, like a big food hall that they have. You can obviously go and get the crap food that's there as well, but they got the meal times and stuff like that, because they've obviously got to switch over and stuff. But basically, you can just keep going back and forth, and that's one of the things that have caught out athletes in the past, which is through boredom you eat, right, and then you put on weight. So you got to be aware of that. You eat, try to keep it to the same structure. I tended to just eat as close to what I would normally eat, which is good because they have all different, because they've got all different people from all different cultures coming in. They've got all different kinds of food. So I could still mix that up a little bit like what I would do at home. Yeah. Have my curries, have my steak and veg, have my, pasta dishes, mix it all up and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not too bad.
Yeah.
You could do that, and you could be very careful around what you eat. And then once you do your race, then you can eat the junk food.
Just go crazy. Yeah. Are there any athletes that don't eat out of the dining hall? Are they actually that full on? They want to be preparing all their own meals. Do you know?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know any of them personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would assume that there would be. There'd have to be. They just have to. But no, I've never come across any of them.
Yeah. As long as the same bulk can get his chicken McNuggets, he'll be right.
Yeah, I know. Or one of the things which I was told, I think it was in when Jeremy Roth told me, I think he went to World Cross in 2004, I think, or maybe 2005, I can't remember. And it was when one of Bekele won his multitude of double world cross country titles. Anyway, he remembers seeing him sitting there at like lunch or breakfast or something, like mid-morning or before World Cross, eating hot chips.
Yeah.
And just going, what? And, he's eating healthily, and he's Bekele eating hot chips before he goes out and destroys the world's best. And you kind of go, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to have.
Oh, well, when you're on holiday team, he's away from home and he's surrounded by all this type of food. He's like, why not? You've got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, well, I think on the day that I ran my 28:19, I had, see, again, you try not to change what you're eating, and I had, on the day of my 28:19, I ate for lunch chicken schnitzel and salad burger with some hot chips. Yeah. So, but I was comfortable, and I tested those things out.
Yeah.
Because we trained at night, I tested those out by having lunch when I worked.
Yeah.
Okay? So you know it works.
Yeah. Look, I'll just touch on it quickly because it can go on for hours, nutrition. But I was just thinking back to when you ran your 2:11. Obviously, it was awesome. But you were just saying you were just in the zone, just 5K drink. Were you just taking in liquid hydration? Were you taking in gels at that stage, or?
So, it was just liquid. However, in 4 of them, I think. So I had my 8 drink bottles out, and you never take the 40K out. But I had, I think the 10K, the 20K, the 30K, I had goo mixed in with my water.
Yeah, okay.
So I'd actually filled it up, shaken it up, and so it was goo water. And then the other ones, the 5, 15, 25, 35 was Gatorade.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So yeah, at that point in time, yeah, I hadn't.
Yep.
I didn't strap goo gels or carry goo gels or anything like that. I mixed them in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay. Cool. 2011, they've got the Goldie win now. Off to the World Half Marathon Champs again in Korea in September. Now they've got you down as a DNF.
yes.
Tell us about that.
So that DNF was at 30K. I went over there and I raced, and I was in good form. I think I did this is another good one that shows marathon strength and stuff like that. Was I went 9 days before it, I just did a solo 3K time trial and ran 8:13, and was like, okay, sweet, I'm good, I'm fast, I'm ready. On the track, of course. And I went into the race and I was just running along, and after the first lap, so it was a 15K, and then a 12K or 12.195K loop. My cars just started getting tight, and I had no idea what was going on. And then, but literally, I think by 29K, I'd been reduced to a hobble. I hobbled to the 30K mark because we were doing laps, and just stepped off because I just couldn't move. I'd never experienced any kind of cramping like that before. Had no idea what it was. We still don't really know what it was, because after I came back and I started to see my chiro after, who he was looking, and I know to people that listen probably sounds counterintuitive. He was probably closer to an osteo than a chiro, but he started looking at my calves, and that was my introduction to dry needling. He checked out my calves and was just like, holy crap. Like, we couldn't figure out, they were rock solid. Like, they were just so tight. So then I got introduced to, he started doing some dry needling. I'm not kidding you. I think I had it twice a week for 6 weeks, and they finally came good. It just, something triggered in them while I was running. And that's what caused my DNF. I just literally couldn't run a step. And that was just, I don't want to say humiliating, but you get what I'm getting at. Like, I had to DNF at a major championship. So it was like, it sucked. But it was out of my control. It wasn't like I made a bad tactical error. It wasn't that I ate something wrong. It was just that my body just said, yeah, I've had enough. So it sucked, and I was not happy at all.
Did you have to pull the singlet off, mate?
I did pull it off as I stepped off. I get the significance of doing it. I did it at the time because that's what it was. No, I don't think they really know. People really knew, and it didn't matter because it really wasn't on screen. I didn't leave my singlet there though.
Nah. So Korea would have been hot too.
Yeah, hot and humid. Not more humid than hot.
Yep.
I think that was more the factor that was killing me, I guess.
Yep. All right, mate. 2012, the Olympic year. Qualification window is wide open. You've gone back to Beppu. You ran 2:13.19. Pretty close to the exact time you ran there the year before. Off to Hamburg, end of April, and you ran 2:14.19, so just exactly 1 minute slower. So tell us about what was going on, what the other boys had ran, what you thought you'd have to run to make the Olympic team for London.
So I think we were told, I think it was 2:12 at the time, we were told we had the run. And I rocked up, and I, obviously I ran my 2:13.19, and with 30, I was just like, come on. It's like, 2:11, 2:13.14, 2:13.19. It's like, oh, come on. And the first thing that happened was, there's always things that, conversations that happen behind closed doors and stuff like that. And in a nutshell, Ken was told that can't say he's not going to be selected, can't say he's going to be selected, this kind of stuff, So basically it was like, Jeff, keep training. So literally, I think I had, so that was a Sunday. The Monday I had off. Tuesday I was back just running normal. I just straight out for an hour run, and I was running angry too. So like I was running faster than what I normally would do an hour run, and so I just started training again and just jumped straight back into it.
This is after Hamburg you're talking, or after Beppu?
No, this is after Beppu. Yeah, the first one. And so it was like, okay, hit my manager, because I had a manager, Derek Frood, New Zealander. He lives in the States. Posso Sports is the management company, and I said, find me another race. I need another race. And we'll spitballing different ideas of what we could get into, and ended up being Hamburg. But the only support that they give me was the couple of nights in the hotel, and I'm like, that's fine. I paid my way over, and basically I just trained like a nutter, and so I had 12 weeks to train. Now this is, most marathon runners 2 a year if you want to get the best out of yourself. Well, from an elite perspective, that's what we would do. Yuki Kawachi does something different. Does 2 a week. Yeah. So got in there, trained, stuck in, and just went, okay, I've just got to do it. And so then, rock up to Hamburg and run 2:14.19, and then I was even dirtier. I was just like, oh, this just sucks, right? And I was just angry, and so I just went, I'm not training. I'm having some time off. Couldn't tell you what the other boys ran. I think Marty was just outside, maybe, and Michael Shelley might have actually run the time. He might have ran 2:11.40 or something like that. I can't remember. And then all I know was about 6 days later or something like that was getting my coach called me and said, I think you need to start training. Marty texted me about 5 minutes after. It was quite funny because we both got notifications on our phone, on our Twitter accounts, that the Australian Olympic team was following us. And we joked with each other, said either this is a sick joke or so we started training, and then sure enough, we got picked in the team. Now, the problem was I'd done 2 marathons in 12 weeks and I had 13 weeks to get ready. And so training, I didn't go as aggressive. Started building it back up. Was training quite well. But then basically by the time I got to, within that week, 2 weeks of London, I think the body's just gone, oh, dude, I can't do this. I'm just tired. And I think either I got my peak wrong or I was just flat and couldn't sustain it, and did the race. And it's the best race I've ever done. Like in terms of experience, like the crowd, it was just so noisy. There was one section where we come off the Mall heading down toward the Thames. The road sort of zigzagged, and there's so many people in there, I couldn't see where the road went. And it was so loud in there, I couldn't hear myself think. It was just amazing. It was phenomenal. I raced as well as I could. I tried to pace myself. I tried to semi-race, in little groups that I got in. But I hit 30K and the body just said, yeah, I've had enough. I stopped twice in the last 10K. The thing, and this is what why I really appreciate that race is the crowd was so big, so noisy, so phenomenal that they are what got me going. Like, I remember hearing people saying, "Come on, you got to finish. You can't stop. You can't stop. Come on, you got this." And I just remember starting again, and just keep going. And it was just terrible. Like, I felt so tired, so sore. But I just kept going, and it got me to the end. And I'm really glad, because that, sure, I think there's 100 starters. I'm going to round the number. There's about 100 starters, about 80 finished, and I was 63rd or 4th or something like that. So, 20% dropped out, and I beat another 20%. So it's not all bad.
Yep.
But,
yes, 63rd in 2:29.59, just for the listeners. Yeah.
It was just, yeah. So it's not the way I had planned to have an Olympic experience.
Yep.
It's not the only Olympic experience that I wanted to have. But it is what it is. I got to experience it. I got to reach the Olympics. I got to go there. So it's nothing to be balked at. I appreciated it. I just know that I didn't bring my A game. It was outside my control of why we gambled. And this is part of where the disagreements with with AA around, because they were always setting harder standards than what the general standard was, stuff like that. But, I ran to 11. I should have been able to run it again, was the logic in our head. So, it's only on me. And, but yeah, like I said, I got to go there, and I did do my best that I could on the day, but it just wasn't my best, which sucked. But I got to be there.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think some of it was just those back-to-back, 6 weeks separating those two marathons leading in, that might have left you a bit flat and you couldn't recover from, or?
I think that's probably what it was. I think it's just that February marathon, 11 weeks, 13 weeks, just trying to keep it going. Again, like I said, I wasn't taking time off to train. I took a little bit. I think I had 1 day a week off, and I worked from home 1 day a week once I was in the Olympic team, to try to help myself, to give myself a little bit more extra recovery. So who knows what, if I hadn't had that, who knows what my result would have been. So yeah, I think it's just a cumulative effect, I think, and also the pressure, and knowing in the back of my mind, the psychological part, knowing in the back of my mind that I'd already done 2, and I was up for my 3rd, and we're only halfway through the year.
Yeah. You get pretty tuned in with how your body should feel certain sessions and throughout the weeks. Did you feel flat heading into London, or?
No.
Okay.
No. I thought I was still training quite well. When I was in our training camp before we went into the village, was when I first got a bit of an inkling something was up. Was some of my runs where I was like, feeling a bit sluggish. Do my monofartlek, and I could hit a really good pace in the effort, but the recovery, where I normally only drop a little bit, I had to drop heaps, and I was kind of going, this is a bit weird. Yeah. But I've sort of played around with monofartleks before, where I would go super quick and then sort of jog, to make it more of an interval than a fartlek session.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. All right, mate, let's move on to 2013. Boston Marathon, the year of the bombing. So it's the one we'd all like to forget. You finished 8th, mate. This is a pretty good result. 8th in Boston, 2:14.28. That's bloody good.
Thanks. I was about happy and annoyed with it.
It was good conditions that year, wasn't it, from memory?
Yeah. Okay. That one was cold. Man, it gets cold at the start. Yep. I remember I warmed up. I had so many layers on. I've never worn that many layers before or since. It was just like I had an undershirt, a long sleeve shirt, my tracksuit top, a jumper on top of that, I was wearing gloves. I was wearing a beanie, a thick beanie, and then I had long tights on, tracksuit pants, warming up, and it was just like, oh, this is cold. But then, of course, you strip right the way off, because once you got in the sun, it was nice. From a crowd perspective, it's second only to the London Olympics. Like 26 miles of just crowds, just the whole way. It was phenomenal. Great experience. And because there's no paces, it was really interesting race. So I could actually race it. It's net downhill overall, but man, there's some good climbs in it, and there's good rolling. I paced quite well, and I set out to try and run a PB on the course. And the benefit I have of my PB is if you try to do it in your metric, so per kilometre, it's 306.2 per kilometre. Try to do it in miles, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So where am I racing? I'm in America. What does America use? Imperial. What are the markers? Miles. Hey, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So that was how I could I could concentrate on that. And so, just paying attention and watching it. And I was going great.
Yeah.
With about 5 mile to go, everyone's sort of strung out by then. Yeah, my right quad started to lock up on me, and it started to get tough. But I, kept going into the finish, and 2:14.28. I would have liked a little bit higher, because obviously it means a little bit more dash, a little bit faster, that kind of stuff. A couple of my now mates, were like in that race that it was a good race. So I got to meet Jason Hartman that I met. I think he came fourth. Another guy, Rob Watson, who he's still kicking around, he's Canadian. He was in there, and he was doing a lot of the leading early on. But yeah, it was a great
Troopy
event.
was there that year too. He went 15th, 2:17.52. Did you spend much time with Troopy?
No, I didn't.
Okay, didn't even see him.
Well, I don't recall it, actually.
Okay, yeah, he must have been staring at your backside, mate.
Yeah, no, I don't. Oh, there you go. I don't remember. But yeah, there's a number of things I don't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we finished, and that was finished, rolled across, and then just hobbled back because we weren't staying. We were staying like a couple blocks over from there, and just went back and got in the apartment. Sitting in a bath, wallowing in my own self pity, going, "Damn, I'm sore," and then the events happened, and I just remember. So where we were, there's a bit of construction site. The vibration and stuff, I thought they'd dropped some big column or something like that. And I didn't think much of it. And then my phone starts beeping like crazy within the next sort of bit, and I'm still lazy in the bath. I hear knocks at my door. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Anyway, I finally get out, and look at my phone. I'm like, I start looking, and then online, and they're talking about it, and I'm like, oh, okay, that would explain the message. Like one of my mates, one of my work colleagues said, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I'm like, "I've done marathons before. Yeah, I'm fine. Like a little bit sore." He goes, "No," and sends me the bulletin. I'm like, "What?" And so then I ring the wife to say, who's pregnant with our first child, due in the next month, and she thinks I've rang. I've gone out on the booze, and I'm ringing her drunk, and and she's angry on the phone. And I'm like, no, I'm ringing you to tell you that I'm okay. Yeah. And so then I go surface outside, and then the organizer's like, "Oh, okay, good. We thought you were there because we thought we could hear the shower going, so we thought you were okay. But good, you're the last one. We've ticked you off." I then see my manager, and he said he was standing, observing out looking over Boston, and then felt the vibration, saw the thing, and went, because he was looking at his window, said, "I'll just move back away from my window now." And then, everything, goes into a bit of chaos, and after party, which is apparently awesome. gets cancelled, all these kinds of things. City goes into lockdown, military are there, all the sightseeing that I'd normally do the following day couldn't happen. It was a really interesting time. It's the main thing that people remember when they say when you say you're done Boston Marathon. What year? 2013. Oh, that year. And people ask me about it. That say don't really know me, the level that I ran. I'm like, I was through. I was an hour and a half. I was kicking back in a bath when it happened, so I was fine. I said it was within the masses. So a bit of a dark. I mean, the ironic part is, I think we got lax as for events, because I think everyone was ready for it to happen at London, at London Olympics, and it didn't happen. I think people got complacent. You still can't prepare or cover all bases, but I think that could have been, part of it. They just thought, oh, well, maybe these things are not going to happen, and they did. So, bit of a dampener, but otherwise, very good race. I wanted to go back again the following year, but I got labral tear, I tore my labral about 4 times throughout the next year. It kept healing, and I kept running through it. Never got to go back. But I really would have loved to. It's a great course. It's a great event. It's a great city. Skip out on a couple of those years where they were super hot, or that horrible raining one. Ugh, they can have that. I got good conditions.
Yeah, for sure. Mate, I'm taking up so much of your time, but there's so much to talk to. We'll just go 2014, you've gone back to the goal year, ran the half, 66.44, finishing 7th. Yeah. 2015, finished 2nd in the Sydney morning half, 67.35. Who got you that day?
Liam Adams.
I thought you'd say Liam, yeah.
By a long way. It was daylight, nighttime. Nighttime.
I remember there was minutes separating the top 3. Like the bloke behind you was minutes behind you too, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think it might have been Matthew Cox who was behind me. He was in 3rd, I think, from memory. But anyway, it was. Each year got progressively slower with my half marathons, and I guess to a certain extent, up to that point, my head sort of wasn't in the game. I had a little girl who, was my focus, and was just, I wanted to spend more time with her, and I was neglecting myself a little bit, not training as consistent, and by that point was actually coaching myself.
Okay, yeah, right, yeah. All right, let's move on to 2016, another Olympic year. You gone to Hamburg, you ran 2:16.09 for a bit of a push for another singlet for Rio. What sort of time again there did you think you sort of needed to get that ticket to Rio?
Well, I kind of knew about 2:14, and I thought I was going to be able to run that. I'd done a lot less mileage, but a lot less. You remember I touched on earlier talking about Brett and Jack running a lot longer at higher pace. I was doing a lot more of that. I'd started following some different mixing and matching some different programs and doing some longer, harder stuff. Hardly any double running through the lead up to it. And I was probably only doing around 120, 130K a week, but it was intense and long. And so I thought I needed to run 2:14. And so that was what I set sail at in that race. And it was, I knew the race. I knew how it panned out. I knew where I could go aggressive and where I couldn't, where I'd have to be patient. I was in a paced group for a German guy, that if I stayed with that one, it was okay. And they sort of were going all right. And but then I just had to push on from about halfway, and I was doing well, and I did kind of surprise myself in a way that I could run a decent time again, just because I had been a bit wayward and a bit lax for a couple of years, and threw my hat in the ring. But I did know that when I I was doing a lot of mental calculations over those final 10Ks, going what I'd need to hold so that I could still run a fast enough time. Because I think I think Michael was in the 2:11s. Marty had run 2:12 at Fukuoka. And I think Scott Westcott had run 2:14:30 or something, or like that. I think somewhere around there. And I just remember I had to try and run that, and just trying to calculate what do I need to run. I was still on before then I realized I dropped, and I was just cramping and getting tighter and tighter. And I finished, and I got my 2:16:09. I thought, well, maybe it's enough. We'll see. I've proven it now at death's door, basically. At the 11th hour, I've ran faster than Brad, who was in a pretty good position for that. And I think he was 2:16 dead, maybe. But then on the day, he ran 2:18:30. And Scott hadn't ran since. He'd ran Berlin, I think, in September, where he'd ran that time. So I thought there's only upsides to it. And I was reasonably happy with my result. I would have liked a little bit quicker, but it didn't happen. And so then we went into the waiting game.
Yep. And now Liam went and Scotty Westcott went. Yeah, and Michael Shelley, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
No. Was it Liam? No, it was Marty, I think, wasn't it? No, it wasn't Liam. Rio.
Yeah,
Liam.
no, it was
Sorry,
Liam.
Sorry.
Yep.
Too many years, man. Too many years.
No, that's all good. Yep.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Yep. So now I remember there was an appeal by you for that singlet. What was that one all about?
So the logic behind that was kind of what I touched on just before. Was Scott there's nothing against the other athletes. Like, you don't target the other athletes. It's the selection process for the marathon. It's discretion, and it's crap. It's not like the way discretion. It needs to be black. It needs to be black and white, and it's very, very difficult to do it with marathons unless you have a trial. And even still, Americans have shown that it can be problematic. So my appeal was based around the fact that I felt I'd proven fitness since the previous, so like Scott hadn't ran since, and he was really the only one that I could bump out, hadn't ran for a while. And I thought, look, no one else has, I beat Brad. Scott hasn't been running recently. I've shown that I've got it. I've shown my history. My championships is not that great, but maybe I should get picked. It's all meant to be confidential, as about what's going on. But obviously it was leaked by someone at the time, and it wasn't very good. So I had even bigger issues there with what was going on. And and it just sort of played out, and it was listened to, it was heard by the committee and stuff like that. But ultimately, I think that, decisions were made, and I just had to deal with it. And I guess it was the logic in my head just made me think that I should have been the one. And when they didn't see my reasoning was when I kind of decided I didn't want to run for Australia again. And it's an unfortunate way to kind of, fall away from it, but it's how it panned out. And I don't think that the selection process is any better still. That's why I kind of moved on. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not the way you wanted it to finish, but I guess some of those things were out of your hands, and all you could do is what you did and go there and run as quick as you could. But now you say pretty much you didn't want to run for Australia again. You kept running locally. 2017 you've gone back to the Goldie Half. You just love. Actually, I might ask, why did you you never tried the Goldie Full? Is that right?
Yeah, no, I did. 2015, I DNF'd.
Oh, okay, right.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I about 3 weeks earlier, I'd been training really well, and I was keen for it, and I thought this is going to be good. That was my first attempt to try to qualify for 2016.
Right.
And what happened was 3 weeks before I got out, and funnily enough, it's actually up on Strava now. I did a 2.5 hour long run, and I ran a 3:45 average, where it felt like I was walking. Like I felt like I was just jogging. I was just floating. And I finished the run. I came inside and I said to Heidi, my wife, I went, uh-oh. And she goes, what? I said, I think I just peaked. And what happened was I kept training in the lead up over the next 3 weeks, but I could just feel myself on the downhill slope away from it. And so when I raced, I took off, and 4 weeks earlier, sort of like your 3:10 sort of pace was just a grind. And so I went down to the turnaround, I came back, and I was just getting slower and slower, and I barely even made it past halfway, and then I just stopped at the 32k mark. I just went, nah, what's the point? And so I just stopped. Yeah. So it was, I got my peak wrong.
Yeah. Yep. And that must be hard to do to get that right. I mean, that's the art form in running, isn't it? Trying to get that right.
Yeah. And it was, I was coaching myself at that point in time, and I have no coaching background. Like I said before, I was a dumb athlete. I just said, what am I doing? And I did it. So me getting the peak right, I didn't know what to look for or how, but yeah. And plus I'd tried some different training that time. And so the reactions to my, in my body as to how that works and all that was unknown at the time. Turned out I responded to it really well, but also a little bit too quickly.
Yep. Mate, this podcast is going to be good for the marathon trainers. Not that there's any marathons to train for now, but anyone's doing 3 hour runs, mate, this is going to be a good one for them. Mate, I'll just finish off. Yeah, 2017, you went back to the Goldie for the half again. You ran 66.19, finishing 14th. Now, that was 30 seconds quicker than you ran 2014, where you finished 7th. So, obviously, sort of gaining a bit more depth up there for that Goldie half. Do you reckon that was like more of the overseas runners coming over to getting paid to come over or grab some cash, or what do you think?
I don't know, but I'm glad you just pointed out that I actually managed to not get slower every single half marathon, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
That's a pleasant surprise. I think that I don't actually think there was more people coming out. I think there was more domestic guys now running halves and getting up there. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's the upswing in terms of the number of people that they're doing halves. They're seeing that Gold Coast is a great event to do, and yeah, they just started coming out in numbers, and yeah, it turns out that you could run a little bit quicker and finish further down the field.
What do they pay? Top 10 up the half, or how do they pay it up there?
No, I think they pay top 3. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, not far. The marathon pays down.
Yeah.
But
are they looking after you? I mean, you win the thing. Surely you don't have to take too much out of your own pocket the following year, or?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was invited back 11 and 12, and was apparently I think this is still the case. I'm the only back-to-back winner in the history of the event. I think. I haven't checked the latest results.
Yeah.
And so that got me back, and then but then after, when I did go back a few later ones, Ryan, who would organise the athletes, he kind of wanted to assist, but I was like, nah. I said, look, I'm not playing, like, as much as I'd love to do something special, I'm probably not going to. So focus on I'll be happy with just an elite start. So make sure that I can get on front. And so they did, and they're good to talk to, and they're very, very well run event. I'm assuming you can hear the bike being put on the a wheel being put on a bike in the background.
Oh, okay. I was going to say it sounds like Heidi's in the background making you supper, mate. So
no, she's getting her bike ready for tomorrow.
Okay.
So she's in the back. Cool. Underestimating how loud it actually is with microphones and their sensitivity.
They are.
So
yeah.
But yeah, they do. They look after their athletes. They put on a good event, and they're definitely an event that I hope make it through to next year.
Yep.
With everything that's gone on.
Yeah, it's interesting for all the runners. Everyone's just hanging to get going. Like here in Canberra, I was just touching it. We've still got some events up and running, which is good. Possibly, looks like Canberra Marathon will go ahead in November, and we've got lots of track events on, 100k ultras, all sorts of things. So there's enough to keep us busy. But for everyone else, we just really want this whole thing to be over with. I think we're only going to get saved by a vaccine. A lot of us keen to get back overseas. That's
the thing, right? Yeah, and at the moment, right, as much as it's annoying that you got to take all the extra precautions, we've been doing it. We've been not going hardly anywhere. We like to go out and do things, but we're thinking, even if there's a chance, right, that you can get it and you can get sick and you can potentially die, I'd rather look like an idiot wearing a face mask around, observing 1.5 meters, not going to social gatherings, and if whatever, there's conspiracy theorists think that it's fake. If it turned out to be fake, then so what? I looked like an idiot for a little bit, but I'm still alive. And at the end of the day, depending upon what you do, a lot of the events, I think we've got to be patient. We will eventually get back to competing, but as a former elite athlete, you were always scrambling to try to be ready for an event, right? You got forced downtime, like especially in Victoria, you can't go outside for longer than an hour, right? Maximize that and work on your base, don't take the shortcuts, work on everything that you've been neglecting, and you'll actually come out stronger when you can come out. So it forces you to not rush. Look at the positive.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I was thinking that, and I'm thinking most people will be doing that, working on the weaknesses, getting in the gym that, a lot of runners tend to neglect because they're too busy worried about doing that second run or that interval session. So, it'd be interesting to see if people do start running quicker when they come out, and if they've done things right, then they should be. And I think there's going to be just a little bit more adrenaline and excitement in the legs when you get out to do a run. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you'll be so excited to do it.
Yeah. No, it'd be great. There'd be so many smiley runners out there the next time we all get to turn up to a major again. Mate,
even just small ones, like people turning up and being able to go down and do an interclub or do a park run or something like that. That's a fun run.
Yeah. Well, we had a half marathon here last weekend. It was blowy conditions, but it was just awesome just to lace up again and whack the bib on and have a run. And it was just so much more enjoyable. You you try not to take it for granted, but you certainly started to look around and thought, how good is this again?
The challenge is that you have all the restrictions and things like that you need to make them safe. Is that everyone's so itching to race that an event that might normally have 200 people could have 2,000 people enter it because they're just itching to get out, which is great for the event, but hard for safety.
Yeah, for sure, mate, for sure. Mate, Jeff, it's been awesome. Thanks for sharing your Saturday afternoon with us. Being a guest on the Running Guy podcast.
It has been an afternoon, hasn't it?
It has, mate. It's you've topped the record, mate. My last interview with Martin was 2:15, 2:20, and you just destroyed that. So no, but it's been fantastic, mate. You certainly had an incredible, successful career as a distance runner. Obviously making it to the pinnacle that everyone dreams about, competing in the Olympics, world champs. Still a holder of that fastest debut marathon, mate. Hopefully hopefully for you for a while, because it's good to own it. But for as far as distance running and marathon running goes, it'd probably be good if someone takes it, because it means that we're moving quicker for the young fellas. But mate, all the best with your love of cycling that you're heavily into now. Mate, stay safe, stay healthy, and thanks again, mate. Really appreciate your time today.
No, not a problem. I've enjoyed it. There'll be people potentially that listen to this who won't be surprised that the chat's gone on for so long, because I know how to talk.
Yeah,
I like to entertain. I like to storytell. And it's good. So yeah, I'm always happy to have a conversation and provide insights. Like, I'm just a normal person. I right place, right time, right genetics, right, whatever. And, you don't have to be special if you're dedicated, and they can, get some insights out of my experiences and how to apply it. I took it as it come, and didn't overthink things. And there's errors that I made, which we didn't really touch on. The 1%ers, like you're talking about, I wasn't as dedicated as I could have been. But look, you can work full time and you can run fast. So don't think you have to be pro athlete. And I say that quote, holding up the quote symbols. Happy to do this anytime. This is great. So I hope your listeners got a lot out of it. And if not, they've developed a very good habit of patience.
No, mate, it's they really do get a lot out of it. It's good talking to you elites and just hearing more about what actually happens around the races. And like I said, we probably could have gone more into your training and all those little things that went wrong. But maybe we can do a number 2 in the future, and we can touch more on that stuff, because I know the listeners like to hear about that stuff as well. But no, it's been fantastic, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity.